Are we ready? Ready? Okay.
Yes.
Good morning. I'd like to call to order the January 13th, 2022 meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission Board of Commissioners. I'd like to note that Commissioner Segerblum will be joining us via call-in. Is he on the line now, Commissioner?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to MJ.
Thank you, Chairwoman and members of the Commission. Your first item is to conduct your first citizens participation period.
Can we start it? Aren't we scheduled to start at 8:45?
Yes.
Yeah, we're scheduled to start at. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
Good morning. Your first item is to conduct your first citizens participation period.
This is the first time set aside for public comment at the Regional Transportation Commission. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the RTC board at this time? Please come forward. And is there anyone who is written in?
Mayor Dubois, for the record, there is no one for this comment period.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the first public comment period. And MJ?
Thank you. The next item is to approve the agenda. The agenda is in order and ready for your approval.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone
Aye.
opposed, say nay. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Chairwoman. The next item is to receive your CEO report. And before we get started, I would like to provide a COVID-19 update. Due to a record high number of employees at the RTC contracting COVID-19, we have re-implemented our work from home policy just through the month of January. We'll reassess towards the end of the month, depending on the trends at the agency. But I do want to make a comment about the drivers that are out there every single day. We are facing labor shortages. It's been compounded by the increase of COVID-19, and they are out there every day, coming in on their days off, working overtime, sometimes dealing with customers that are not happy because the service is not where it needs to be. So I just want to take a moment to commend them, because they are the reason that our community keeps moving, and they make all of us look really good.
Thank you. And how are the COVID numbers impacting service?
So I'm going to turn this over to Francis Julian, because he has a most recent update.
Thank you.
Yes, it's good morning, Francis Julian for the record. It's a very, very fluid situation. So this morning, in between the three contractors, we're probably at around 140 drivers that are out either due to quarantine or COVID.
Have we had to move to any adjusted schedules on some routes? Or?
So we're working on solutions to do just that, and we're working on different plans to better communicate the service delays as well.
Thank you. MJ?
Thank you. Let's see. Let's see here. So the next item in today's report is to recognize a dear friend of the RTC's, Dr. Robert Lang, whom the community lost in June. As the director of Brookings Mountain West and the Lindsay Institute at UNLV, Dr. Lang did so much to advance the conversation around regionalism, Southern Nevada Strong, and public transit. To memorialize his work, we installed 2 plaques at the UNLV Transit Center last month. The planter and tree are in memory of Dr. Lang, and the bench facing the Greenspun building is dedicated to the Lang family. We are forever grateful for his dedication to mobility here in Southern Nevada.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Back in 2013, the city of North Las Vegas was particularly hard hit with the implosion. Of course, the city was tied with San Bernardino with the most foreclosures in the country. And the city was right about to be dissolved. But we were very fortunate that we had Dr. Robert Lang and the Mountain West, what was it called? The Mountain West,
Brookings
Mountain West, yes.
And Lindsay.
And we had a fantastic presentation by him, in which, it was kind of like a retreat, kind of similar to our board retreats here, and where, of course, the think tank, led by Dr. Lang, outlined measures that we could take, not just emergency measures, but build for the future measures. And It was, the title of the presentation was, "The federal government's not going to come in on a white horse to save you. You must save yourself." With his leadership, he outlined a fantastic plan for the city of North Vegas to follow, which we did. We are well into our goal of having 100 million square feet of industrial space being developed in North Las Vegas. A lot of this going after segments of the economy that are not related to gambling are really helping North Las Vegas build to the future. The city of North Las Vegas owes a deep debt of gratitude to Dr. Robert Lang. And I'd like to make sure that it's on the record that before I die, I'm certainly going to see some sort of a memorial. Maybe we can get a street named in honor of the professor. My hat's off to him wherever he's at. Thank you very much, Dr. Lang. Thanks so much.
We should probably name the I-11 after him because he really was instrumental.
Yeah, most definitely. Any leg, yeah, that'd be a fantastic idea.
So Christina, we're just dropping a hint, right?
Hint, hint.
Anyone else want to comment? I would just like to share that I had the good fortune to know Rob for more than 20 years. I actually served on the Planning Accreditation Board and also on the National Board of the American Planning Association and worked closely with him when he was at Virginia Tech. And he has always been someone who pushed on norms and traditional ways of thinking and allowed us, and when he came to Southern Nevada, really allowed us to look at how we might do business differently, whether it's looking at the medical school here in Southern Nevada or whether it's building the I-11 and so many other things. And obviously he wanted transit on Maryland Parkway. And, there are just so many things that he inspired us with his vision. And I love the plaque that you've identified for his tree, and that's inspiring a vision and dedication to mobility in Southern Nevada. He was very committed to Southern Nevada and to our community. And so he will be missed. And, there's certainly a great vacuum where he served, and hopefully someone will come in and fill that vacuum at some point, but not just yet. So thank you very much.
Agreed. Thank you, Chairwoman. The next, we'd like to recognize a mechanic from our contractor Keolis. Deputy CEO Francis Julian was on hand to recognize Ildefonso Alonso.
Thank you, MJ. Today we're at the Sunset Maintenance Facility to celebrate Ildefonso Alonso. Alonso is actually a mechanic that's been working for Keolis for quite many years. And upon receiving the new double-deckers we had, with all the communications and all the systems, we had electrical issues that the manufacturers were trying to troubleshoot. Ildefonso, or Alonso as he prefers to be called, was able to work, identify the issues, and fix all the new buses that we have. So let's go and celebrate Ildefonso. Hey Alonso, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, Francis Julian, Deputy CEO for the RTC. You won the Crystal Bus this month on behalf of our commissioners, MJ Maynard, our CEO, for all you did with the double-deckers. So thank you so much.
I'd like to thank the RTC Commissioner and Mr. Alan Hayes for the opportunity for me to work on these buses, because new technology is always the best way to learn, and we never stop learning, and there's always going to be new technology coming up. So thanks again. I thank the Commissioner again for the opportunity.
Great employees at Keolis and MV. Next, we'd like to recognize RTC's, oh, I'm sorry, is Ildefonso, is he here, Francis? Okay, well, a great employee, so thanks for
you.
that, Francis.
In fact, let's
Yes, that's right.
thank you.
And next, we'd like to recognize our own superstars of the quarter from the RTC. They have gone above and beyond in their roles at the RTC, and so today we're bringing you winners from both quarters, quarter 2 and 3. For the administrative technical category of quarter 2, we're happy to recognize Torrance Amy with our Traffic Management Center. Our Senior Director of Engineering, John Penuelas, surprised Torrance at a recent team meeting, so we'll watch the video. Oops, sorry, JP, oops, let me get back to you.
There's JP.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. John Penuelas here. I have the honor today to introduce to you Mr. Torrance Amy. He is a traffic communication systems technician down here at FAST, and he has done an outstanding job leading the team on some of the repairs that are going on out on I-15 over the last several months with excessive vandalism, and he has just done a tremendous job, and we're very happy to honor him today with the Superstar of the Quarter for quarter number 2. So we're going to surprise him in Lonnie's team meeting.
Actually, we're here to present a Superstar of the Quarter for a FAST employee. I will turn it over to JP to introduce him.
Yes, I have a great pleasure to introduce everyone the Superstar of the Quarter for quarter 2, and that is Torrance. Thank you very much, Torrance, for all you're doing out there. Let's give it up.
Hey, congratulations, Torrance. That's awesome, man. Way to go, Torrance.
Wow, that's
Thank you.
great. Man,
Too cool.
I really appreciate it. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised.
Thank you very much for all your hard work and leading the group like you do.
No problem. I'm just one of the fingers in the fist or the hand, so I mean, I don't see anything different.
Very good. Well, it's a recognition that's very well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Torrance.
Great employee. Thanks, JP. Next, for the quarter 2 professional supervisor category, we would like to recognize Leah Gamboa from our finance department. Mark Trosdow was there to surprise her.
Thank you, MJ. We're excited to introduce our Superstar of the Quarter this quarter from the finance department. The Superstar of the Quarter is Leah Gamboa, and she is in charge of our payroll group and has done just an outstanding job through the pandemic and everything. So we are going to get Leah on the WebEx here with us, and we'll surprise her with the Superstar of the Quarter. Leah, welcome to our emergency meeting that Lisa invited you to. We've tricked you into coming to this meeting so that we can award you the Superstar of the Quarter. So we're very excited, and it's our pleasure to give you this award. Congratulations.
So proud of you. Go Team Finance, go Team RTC, and you're great. Your passion, dedication, and commitment really reflects on your output, and we can't thank you enough.
I am very honored to have you in my team. So congratulations.
This is really a wonderful surprise. I didn't really expect it. Like, I just want to perform every day, just do my job, what is expected, or maybe even beyond. I think I won't be successful in this role without your trust and confidence in me. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leah.
I'm surprised Sherwin didn't throw in Go Patriots. So next, moving on to quarter 3 winners. For the administrative technical category, we are very happy to recognize Chandra Summers Armstrong from our Streets and Highways program. Our Senior Director of Engineering, again, JP, announced a surprise during the team meeting, so we'll watch the video.
Good morning, everybody. JP here down at the FAST building, and I have the great pleasure and opportunity to introduce to you the winner of our Superstar of the Quarter for quarter number 3, and that is Chandra Summers Armstrong, a person that has been at the RTC for many years. We have worked very closely together since I've been here in 2015, and it is just wonderful to be able to introduce her as a Superstar of the Quarter. She has done phenomenal work over her entire career, but most recently with putting together a training program for the administrative staff to get them ready for their next opportunities. I know, Chandra, you take this very personally, being able to bring people up to that next level. You're just doing a phenomenal job, and we very, very much appreciate it. So congratulations, very well deserved.
Hello, everybody. This is Chandra Summers Armstrong from Streets and Highways. Wow, what an honor to be recognized as Superstar of the Quarter. This award is completely unexpected. The training series for which this award is based was for people who wanted to promote into administrative positions, and it has been a long-held dream. I love the phrase, each one teach one. That's what this training series meant to me, and I hope that staff and management will continue to embrace this process. What a journey these 26 years at the RTC have been. Thank you, RTC staff and management, for seeing me, hearing me, supporting me, and giving me a chance to grow and give back. Thank you, and take care.
Thank you, Chandra.
She's amazing. And lastly, for quarter 3, professional supervisor category, we're happy to recognize Dave Wimple with the Traffic Management Center. So let's watch as the team surprises Dave. There he is, Dave.
Good morning again. John Penuelas here down at the FAST building. I have the great opportunity and pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Dave Wimple. He is a senior communications systems technician. He has been leading the effort in getting all of the devices into Ndot's lifecycle costing tool, which is going to potentially bring back millions of dollars to FAST, since we'll be able to understand exactly how much those devices cost over their lifetimes. So he's been leading that effort. He's gone above and beyond with his attention to detail and working with Ndot and management to get that done. So we're really proud of the effort, and Lonnie's going to surprise him in his team meeting.
For the first time, we have a second Superstar of the Quarter for quarter 3. JP, take over.
Yes, as far as I know, this is unprecedented, as having one department have back-to-back winners like that. I could be wrong, but this is Mr. Dave Wimple. So way to go, Dave. Give it up.
You're crazy.
All right, Dave.
Dave,
all right.
I'd actually defer to Superstar. I appreciate you guys. It's unnecessary, but just everybody here kind of does their own thing and goes to work every day. So it's nothing what I consider necessarily special. Just doing your job.
Well, we appreciate that attitude, and you guys all have it. You clock in, you do outstanding work, you clock out, you don't expect any recognition, but I know how hard you work out there and how valuable you are to this community. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Congratulations, Dave.
Very humble group out there at the Traffic Management Center. So finally, the last item in the CE report is the quarterly roadway funding update. JP, our Senior Director of Engineering, will provide you with an update on the progress of our roadway funding, including fuel tax and sales tax.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you, MJ. Good morning. Chairwoman March, Commissioners. John Penuelas for the record again. Happy New Year. I'd like to begin your quarterly report with the funding update. And then we'll finish up with some highlight some of the projects that have been completed recently in each of your agencies. Alrighty, I guess I'm in control, so let's do it. All right, so you can see that since 2014, 583 projects have been started, and 330 of those have been completed. These projects were all made possible by our local funding sources, which include fuel revenue indexing, motor vehicle fuel tax, and sales tax, of course. Again, since 2014, we have awarded over $1.85 billion in roadway contracts to your jurisdictions. You can see that the fuel tax provides the lion's share of the funding, but at almost $90 million, sales tax is not insignificant. It's question 10, and that's primarily for the trails and off-roadway network. This graph shows the dollars under contract and compares that to our total revenues and expenses. As of the second quarter of fiscal year 22, the total revenue is more than $2.1 billion. The total expenses are more than $1.3 billion, and the total amount under contract is more than $1.8 billion. Your agencies are working at a record pace, I should say, to finish these projects and invest the money in our community to improve safety, enhance mobility, and minimize congestion. Some of the things we are all about. And then the jobs report, as a result of the projects completed in partnership with the RTC, your agencies, and our consultants and contractors, more than 13,000 jobs have been created since 2014. So now, like I said, I'd like to go over a handful of construction projects that have been completed during the second quarter of 22. These highlight the partnerships between the RTC, your agencies, and industry who are working very hard to improve mobility and enhance safety in Southern Nevada. So in October of 21, Clark County began a major street improvement on Ann Road between the Beltway 215 and Durango Drive. The project widened Ann Road to 2 travel lanes in each direction with installation of new raised landscape median islands. The roadway project also included multimodal safety upgrades, which included the addition of buffered bike lanes, sidewalks, street lighting, ITS conduit, and a traffic signal at Fort Apache Road. That wrapped up, as I said, or actually it wrapped up in December of 21 and cost approximately $19 million. So staying in Clark County, they also had 2 large projects on Fort Apache Road in 2 different sections. One was in the Northwest Valley from Alexander to 215, and the other one was in the Southwest Valley from Warm Springs Road to Tropicana Avenue. The project between 215 and Alexander added 2 travel lanes in each direction, a raised median island again, a new storm drain, bike lanes, upgraded sidewalks, LED street lighting, again, ITS conduit and fiber, and probably most importantly, a new school zone flashing beacon to better protect our students as they walk and bike to school. The project between Tropicana and Warm Springs included the rehabilitation of the existing roadway section and widened the street where necessary to achieve 2 travel lanes in each direction and dedicated turn lanes throughout. Both projects came in total at about $25 million. Here in the city of Henderson, my former employer, who I still love out there, they recently completed improvements along Nevada State Drive. This project widened Nevada State to 2 travel lanes in each direction between Compassion and Paradise Hills, and converted the Nevada State Paradise Hills intersection into a roundabout to improve safety. Additional project elements included a new storm drain, sidewalk rehabilitation, LED street lighting, and ITS conduit. This wrapped up in December for an approximate cost of $3.4 million. Going over to the city of Las Vegas, they kicked off their phase 1 of their downtown pedestrian safety program. The overall project includes new sidewalk, ADA path upgrades, new sidewalk ramps, street light improvements, pedestrian flashers, traffic signal improvements, curb extensions, pedestrian fencing, and the ever-important protective bollards. The first phase was completed in October 21 for an approximate cost of $5.8 million. And then going way north up to Mesquite, their latest project is Isaac Newton Drive. That project added over 1,300 feet of curb and gutter, sidewalk improvements, paving, and streetlights. That wrapped up in November for a cost of about $1.7 million. And then finally, out in my hometown, Boulder City, they recently invested in a significant bicycle path paving project, which included the construction of 1.5 mile bike path next to Hemingway Channel between River Mountain Trail and the parking lot to the trailhead, and then down to Pacifica. This project concluded in December for an approximate cost of $250,000. And it's hard to tell, but on the left, that's basically compacted gravel, and on the right is a nice AC path, much better surface to ride on, I'm told from my biking friends. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner.
Thanks. Thank you. Wonderful report there. Just a couple of questions. One on revenue looking to the future. Are we going to be getting reports on a regular basis of how the share of fuel revenue becomes something for electric vehicles? to make up that gap, and as the electric vehicular travel increases and purchases of equipment?
Well, the short answer is yes. Would you like to go into the details?
And I'll defer to Director Christina Swallow. She is facilitating a working group that was put together by way of legislation. So, Christina.
Well, that was quite the handoff. And I was going to provide an update on the advisory working group in my report, but basically
That's okay then.
Well,
That's okay if
it's a really
covered.
high level. So I'm just to reiterate, in the legislative session of last year, we were tasked with compiling an advisory working group. There's 29 members of this group. It's Nevada or it's State Department employees, it's local agency representatives, it's business, it's people who are interested in improving our climate. So it's a very diverse group of 29 folks. We started, our first meeting was last August. We're looking at making decisions here in March and April with the hope, with finalizing the report by the end of the year, but we're hoping to get all of our recommendations out soon enough that we can start working with legislators on possible actions that may need to be taken during the 2023 session.
So ultimately, would that mean this goes to the legislature?
Yes.
And that's a year and a half, 2 years out?
Yes, okay. I think and I appreciate that you're focused on this and asking the questions. Fortunately, the adoption rate of electric vehicles is not the current biggest threat. It is a mid to long-term threat. Actually, our bigger challenge right now is the increased fuel efficiency of all vehicles. And so we're looking at both the current needs of the funding challenge, but also the long-term as more vehicles do become electric. But right now, they are a very small proportion of the fleet, so they're not the biggest threat. So we do have some time. We don't have forever, and whatever we do will take time to implement. So we are looking at finishing our report this year and working with the legislature on possible solutions.
And the last part of that question, hopefully you have somebody from NV Energy or energy companies throughout the state, because watching, especially in southern Nevada, with our extreme heat, I don't think we look to California and their grid is down, and it goes down. And certainly with our heat, that's even higher than what they get, except in their southernmost area. What is NV Energy saying here in southern Nevada to us as to the extra energy that's going to have to be coming for this? So I know it's nothing to answer now, but it certainly is important for us as we look to sales tax, fuel revenue index taxing being severely hit. So
we are working closely with NV Energy. They're a member of this advisory working group, but also on several other initiatives as we work to funnel the federal funding for EV charging out. We're working very closely with our energy providers throughout the state.
Okay, and as I said, more southern Nevada than northern. And then one last question. After the remarkable number of jobs you've created through these projects, when a job completes, and just yesterday I was on Fort Apache, and fabulous, what a difference. The question is, when these people finish and complete a job, they go into a pool for the next one. Is there priority given? How does that happen? You make a count because a job's completed, and then what?
Well, that calculation takes that into account, how the jobs are created, maybe not for an entire year for a single person, but it could be like 4 people for 3 months each. That would be counted as a job year. So it kind of takes that movement into account. But as far as the specifics on how the contractors move people around, I'm afraid I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
And MJ, you had a question?
I was going to say, Mayor Goodman, next month, Director Swallow or her designee will be presenting an update on the advisory, the working group. So you'll be able to have an opportunity to receive more information. Okay.
Wonderful. Any other questions or comments, Commissioner?
Sure. Just real quick, when does the FY23 process start in terms of identifying the project list?
It's actually started right now. We've been talking to your public works people, and then we have a process through the spring, and it will come to you for approval in June to be active July 1.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Chairwoman. The next item is to receive the Nevada Department of Transportation Director's Report. Director Swallow.
Hi, good morning. As I do every month, I am going to start with safety. I'm starting to think this was a bad idea to start with safety when I started doing this, because it means I start on a dour note every month, it seems. So one thing we learned in 2021, it's that lives continue to be on the line. During 2021, 382 lives were lost on Nevada roadways. That's up nearly 18% from 2020. And if you recall, 2020 was up significantly from 2019. Of the 382 fatalities statewide, 235 occurred in Clark County, a 22% increase from the prior year. 5 of those people were bicyclists. 57 were motorcyclists. 66 were pedestrians. I share a story of one of these crashes each month in an effort to put a face to these numbers, because we hear numbers, but they're people, they're family members, their mothers, their daughters, brothers, sisters, cousins, friends. Unfortunately, we can't share 235 stories, but they all deserve to be told. Speed and impairment were the 2 biggest factors contributing every single month in 2021, including in December. Speed and impairment were factors in a crash last month in the city of Henderson. A 30-year-old driver was driving westbound on Bluegrass Lane, approaching Eastern, when, according to authorities, he ran the stop sign and crashed into another car. The car he hit then collided with 2 other vehicles. 4 vehicles were involved in this crash. The driver of the car that was struck, the first car that was struck, was transported to the hospital, where they died from injuries sustained in the crash. A 3rd driver involved was also went to the hospital. The driver causing the crash is accused of DUI resulting in death and failing to obey intersection traffic controls. There are 381 other stories, or in Clark County, 234, of people who lost their lives and didn't make it home to their families. We are working to do what we can to save lives. And one of the ways is with the launch of our statewide speed management action plan. We began this effort last spring to further evaluate strategies for managing speed on the state highway network. In collaboration with partner agencies, the plan will identify appropriate engineering, enforcement, and educational countermeasures and strategies to reduce speed-related crashes. And I'll note that you heard me say speed, not speeding. Speeding is bad, but a lot of just the base design speeds that our roads are too high and will result in fatality if in the case of a crash. The statewide speed management action plan will outline actions that the state and our other partners can take to reduce speeding and speeding-related fatalities. As drivers and community members, we must remember that traveling at a safe speed not only helps us avoid crashes, but can greatly mitigate the severity. And again, I'm glad to hear that our partners, I know the county has just hired a new leader. A little sad for the state, super excited for the county, and really looking forward to working with him in his new role. And I think this is where boots hit the ground and we can really start making some changes. All right. I-515, as we're going to continue to provide updates on this, because I know it's a challenge to drive through that corridor right now. So we want to thank the public and the visitors for their patience as we continued through the closing of the ramps last month and continue through the construction. I'm pleased to report we were able to open the 515 southbound off-ramp to Casino Center and the 515 southbound off-ramp to Las Vegas Boulevard last month, both ahead of schedule before the holidays, and so all ramps were open during Christmas and New Year's. Next up, imminently, our crews are preparing to shift traffic to the south side of 515 in preparation for demolition of the north side of the Eastern Avenue Bridge along the 515. This is scheduled to occur mid-January. It's happening imminently. Watch for the press releases, but it will be happening soon. When the demolition occurs, Eastern will be closed. Eastern itself underneath will be closed at the structure for 9 days. And we really, truly appreciate the partnership with the RTC and understand that may impact some bus routes. So thank you for working through it with us. These on Eastern are longer closures than we've experienced during the Desert Inn work, because the crews are demolishing and reconstructing Eastern in 2 phases rather than the 3 phases at DI. There will be another short-term closure of DI under 515 for the 3rd phase of that demolition in early February. It will last about a week. Overall, the project is scheduled to wrap up on time at the end of this year, 2022, and you can visit i515project.com for more information. One other thing on this particular corridor, though, as you all know, we're working on the long-term fix for those bridges. And we have a public meeting scheduled. It will be a virtual public meeting from next Monday, January 17th through February 15th. We'll have an in-person element of that. Right now we're planning it in person. All the Omicron, you don't know, but right now it's scheduled for January 25th from 4 to 7. We'll be looking for input on the alternatives. There are 3 alternatives being considered: a north elevated option, a south elevated option, and a recessed option. And we're looking for input on the mitigations. When we do this project, it is going to have impact on the local community. So we want to hear from the local community on what we can do to mitigate that impact. For more information on that project, Ndot DAP, so Nevada Department of Transportation Downtown Access Project, ndotdap.com. Advisory Working Group, I already talked about this a little bit earlier, but just where we are, and I'm not gonna dwell on it, is that because we're coming back in February. At our meeting on Tuesday earlier this week, we reviewed 30 different funding mechanisms, potential funding mechanisms for transportation that are either used here locally or used throughout the nation, different ways you might be able to fund the system. And we worked to cut the list down. I should note we didn't really cut the list down much, but there was a lot of really good dialogue that our consultant was able to hear and understand where there might be concerns, where there might be opportunity. Ultimately, we anticipate it will be a package that we recommend. It'll be a little bit of this and a little bit of that, because the challenges change as we move forward, and we don't want to have to do this again in 5 years. So we're thinking it will be some sort of a package that reflects how can we raise revenue today to meet our annual shortfall, but how do we make sure whatever we do today also lasts into the future as we start to see further fuel economy increases and EV adoption. So you'll have it's probably gonna be about a 10 to 15 minute report next month where we are. Our consulting team is looking at developing those packages in the next 2 months. Our next meeting will be in March, and then in April we hope to really have some decisions. Meetings are public. You're always welcome to join us or tune in. All right, I wanted to talk about something we've discussed before, and but not recently, and that's our state's climate goals regarding greenhouse gas emissions. So the Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, in coordination with the Governor's Office of Energy, released our greenhouse gas emission inventory and projections report earlier this week. And spoiler alert, Nevada is not on track to meet our goals. As the statewide transportation agency, we know that transportation is the biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, and we are committed to working and providing leadership in achieving the greenhouse gas emission goals. We are doing a lot internally, but we're limited as to what we can do. We can really look at our commuter impact. We can look at our construction impact. We can look at the impact of new projects, and we are starting to look at that, but it's really sort of limited. And I've been spending a lot of time thinking about what do we need to do, and we really need to do a couple of things. We have to change the way we move, but we really, in order to do that, have to change the way we build. And just the other day, Secretary Buttigieg actually tweeted that, and I'm shortening what he tweeted: we need to reduce the need to travel in a car. To do that, we really need to look at where are the destinations that people want to go. Where are they, how are they getting there? I've been spending a lot of time doing that. I've been riding the bus more this month, and I'm finding that I can't do a lot other than go from my house to work and back. And I'm lucky that I can do that without a transfer, but if I want to do really much of anything else, I need a car. And that's a function of how we've built our community and the zoning and land use changes that we've made. At Ndot, I don't have a role in that. I'm hoping that we can start having a conversation about that with our local agencies. How might we change that? And that's hard. I know it's hard, but we really need to really think about, and I'm thinking earlier, we talked about how Robert Lang pushed for different. So we're gonna have to think about different, because if all you can do is get to and from work on the bus, you're gonna need a car to do anything else. Secretary Buttigieg said, after reduce the need, you need to shift the trips. So once you start changing where those destinations are, you might be able to start shifting the trips. I was looking personally at how do I get to the gym? I want to start doing that more. And in order to get to the gym, it was an hour bus ride from the office. It was an hour bus ride to home. So I'm like, well, maybe I could ride the bike. Maybe I could ride my bike. The route had me riding my bike on Flamingo and on Jones. So yeah, we need to look at how we change our transportation system too to shift the mode, because that wasn't a viable solution for me. I mean, and I'm a pretty confident rider, and I'll ride on a lot of corridors, but I'm like, do I want to do that every day, especially at 8 o'clock at night? No, that's not a choice I want to make, and I can't imagine many others would make that choice. And then if the trips have to be motorized, making sure that we're working on getting them to a cleaner version of that. And that is where we are talking about EVs and trying to make sure we can sustain the funding. So I want to challenge you. I don't know that I have the ability to challenge you, but I'm going to ask you. How about that? I'm going to ask you to start thinking about, how do we build our communities? Are there ways that we can incentivize different construction? I know that easy land is the further out land, but are there ways we can incentivize infill and redevelopment? That doesn't just help us meet our greenhouse gas emission goals. It also helps everyone in our community get to where they need to go, regardless of their access or their resources or their ability. Last night I met a young lady standing at the bus stop right here at World Market, and she was trying to get down to Shelbourne on Las Vegas Boulevard, and the Google told her she should take this corridor that meant she had to transfer twice. I think it was going to take her well over an hour to get there. And ultimately, some things happened. We had a good conversation. She just decided to bail out and go home because it just wasn't viable or feasible. And so you have to think, you know, when we're doing this, how do we meet her needs? How do we help her get to and from wherever she wants to go? It shouldn't just be about whether or not you're lucky enough to live so you don't have to transfer and you only have to go to and from work. I mean, everyone needs groceries. Everybody has friends. Everybody wants to go out. So how do we make that work in a much more sustainable way? All right. This month, January, is the National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Tuesday was actually National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, where the public is encouraged to wear blue. You can see some of our team members wearing blue, the international color of human trafficking awareness. Human trafficking is a serious crime and violation of human rights involving force, coercion, or fraud to exploit a person into slave labor or sexual exploitation. It affects all populations, adults, children, men, women, foreign nationals, and U.S. citizens, and all economic classes. Notably, Nevada is ranked first in the nation for human trafficking per capita. We all have the ability to help victims of human trafficking, and we encourage you to learn more at dhs.gov/blue-campaign. And I should note that the RTC is doing a lot of work in this space with their operators. We're also working, we have team members out on the road every single day, so we're working on providing them training on what to do how to identify a potential case of human trafficking, what to do when they do identify it. So we have been working, I think, with the RTC on trying to share some of those training materials where they apply. Our roles are different, but there are shared applicability, and so just an awareness piece, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I'd like, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Director Swallow, for your presentation. With regards to local jurisdictions and zoning and planning, the county is in the process of going through, just adopted its master plan. I know the city of Las Vegas just updated their master plan. So in addition to our sustainability initiative, all in Clark County, which is being integrated into our zoning decisions for the first time ever, that's not going to magically solve all the things that have already been built, but at least we're trying to make that effort going forward. But I wanted to ask a question on the safety issue. As you know, last week, 4 people were killed on I-15 southbound as a result of an intoxicated wrong-way driver. I understand from my representative that represents that area down there in the rurals that there was some Ndot proposals for trying to stop those, or at least indicate to the wrong-way drivers flashing lights or something along those lines. Do you know what's that about, or?
Yeah, so we are working on, we already have some wrong-way driver detection and alert systems put in place. I think it's at the Durango interchange on 95. We're working on expanding that and putting some more in conjunction with a grant that the RTC got, the ATC-MTD grant, to put more along US 95 between the Spaghetti Bowl and Summerlin Parkway. We're working on rolling out and expanding. Back in 19, before the pandemic, when we saw a lot more all at the same time, we noted that the one at Durango is actually under a pilot study, and so we need to get through the pilot study period. I think that is wrapping up here soon. and that will enable us to better understand what the best path forward is, like what the right combination of signs and lights are. We are working on continuing to do this. And they are working. Where we have put them in, they are working. That said, there's only so many, like flashing lights, signs, whatever, when you're impaired. When was the last time you got onto the freeway wrong? Like they're pretty well designed as they are, and so we're gonna continue to do what we can to keep those impaired drivers where they belong, which is not in their car. But if they should manage to find their way onto the freeway, we're gonna try and see what else we can do to augment the safety.
Glad to hear that. What I heard was that 36 of those were up in northern Nevada, and one of them was down here. So, just as you know, 73% of the population is
Hey,
here,
you know
so.
what? I started 3 years ago, and all of that was underway, and so I challenged them at the time to see if we could add more in, and unfortunately, the way the grant worked to do that, we weren't able to. We're working on it. I hear you, though.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you, and again, wonderful, interesting report. I just want the public to know that for several years we have, just so that you know, the suggestion's been made but has been put aside for teeth going into those exits that you're going the wrong way. And the suggestion has been moved aside that they can't consider using. I'd let our Director Swallow respond to why. But we continue to hear in the city of Las Vegas suggestions from the public. Why aren't they putting teeth in the roadways, which immediately stops the wrong way driver? So, and that's been going on for several years. So what's the general response from Ndot on that, please?
They have been looked at. They are not an approved solution on interstate corridors or any other major corridor like that. One of the reasons, and there's many, but one of the reasons is frequently our emergency providers actually use the ramps in the opposite direction when they have to clear a crash, and we don't want our emergency providers to be disabled as they're trying to get people to critical care.
So that's an important piece for the public to understand. We appreciate that you keep calling in with this suggestion, but all we can do is be a pass-through. The other comment I wanted to make is on the human trafficking. One of the things our private sector has been good enough to do, we know the restrooms are a place where those who are being trafficked can find a phone number, make a call, and they're hopefully safe in the restroom. So this has been ongoing, especially at the airport and big public places, at least for the past 3 years. So ideas that come in, if you would send them on, of course, to any of the jurisdictions, but there is movement. Things are happening beyond the education and beyond what families and different organizations are trying to do. But the public stepped up, the private sector stepped up to put these signs in the bathrooms, which I think have been somewhat effective.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Yeah, in North Las Vegas, and again, safety is such a big deal. And what's really glaring, I think, is there actually has been lots of money spent on traffic safety, and we still see these things going up by more than double digits. You know, the amount of the flashers, right, in mid, all the bridges. I'm very happy to say that along Las Vegas Boulevard, north, of course, you had to put fences in between the different intersections, because people will actually go around and they'll actually avoid, you know, places where there's safety crossing walks, right, and cross. And so the solution that Ndot did was to put wonderful fencing, kind of like the one you see on Charleston as well, between 95 and Nellis, which I hope has cut down on fatalities and accidents there. I still have a picture of a fatality in North Las Vegas. There's a person, a woman, she already has the sheet over her, and she's almost in the shadow of one of the pedestrian bridges, which is, you know, it's striking. She could have gone ahead and gone through, and I get it. It's a long detour to go around and climb over the bridge and then come on the other side, right? She didn't, and she lost her life. I have a feeling that one just a small way, and maybe it'll help get the word out. It's getting the word out. I think the different agencies need to explore, and I don't know what one particular Ndot's done, but there are alternative social media platforms. If anyone knows what La Pulga is, if I need to get a word out to the Latino community, I go on La Pulga. La Pulga is a reference to the flea market. It's an online flea market. I've reached, in short conversations, 30,000 people live, and they easily have 300,000 people logged on here during the week. But I don't think we're reaching them, and that's just like one example. I'm not trying to do a plug for La Pulga. That's just like one example. There are alternative platforms, and probably I think it's going to cost a little bit of cash, but they tend to be relatively affordable. I think, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, and I have found that if we engage, alternative media outlets, we might get a little bit more of the word out. In the end, it's going to be people making individual choices, but if they're educated, if they're made aware, perhaps they'll make a slightly better choice. The other thing, I'll let you respond to that first.
Thank you. This is a challenge for me. Because so much of how we all interact with our transportation system is based on how our system is built, and not just the system, but the destinations, what I was talking about with the land use and individual choices. We rarely expect, and we have, all of the local agencies have these, and Ndot have these battles about putting in medians so that somebody can't turn left immediately into the McDonald's across the street, because that driver is not going to make a U-turn, right? It's really hard to actually make a driver go out of direction, and they're most often in a conditioned, safe vehicle, and yet the pedestrians, we do expect them to go significantly out of direction in lots of cases, and it's hot, and it's windy, and it's cold, and they're just trying to get to where they want to go as efficiently as possible. So yes, there is an element of education that's involved in this, but there's also I think the burden really falls on us as community builders and transportation builders to figure out how to make the system better and safer for the bicyclists and pedestrians. And I say this as a frequent pedestrian. I'm not as frequently a cyclist, because the destinations are really too far, but I ride the bus, I walk, and I think about the crossing that I have, and I'm fortunate that when I get off the bus at where I get off to go home, there is a giant light system that flashes and tells everybody to stop. But I think I told you a couple months ago, like the guy that was walking next to me was like, that thing doesn't work, and it was fully working, but what he meant is that the drivers don't stop. And so at some point, pedestrians and we have conversations, like I've been told by somebody that you all know very well, I've been told, well, when you cross that road, make sure you put the flashlight on your phone and flash it, make sure everybody can see you walking. And how many things do we need to do? And Mayor Goodman, you've talked about you can't see the pedestrians, but honestly, my coat that I wear to and from work is black. And I'm not, this is a challenge, but I think the bigger challenge is to us as builders and planners of our built environment. How do we make it safe for those people who can't operate a vehicle for whatever the reason is? I mean, I think about instances on Charleston when I've seen people in mobility scooters riding in Charleston because the sidewalk isn't conducive for them to ride on. I mean, we have a big challenge. If I didn't say that earlier in the greenhouse gas space, if I didn't say that, I will fully acknowledge this is a huge challenge. But if we want to make our community safe and accessible for every single one of our community members, it's our challenge to take on, and we should work with them, of course, on educating them and making sure they're aware of the outcomes of some of those decisions, but ultimately it's our burden to make sure that those outcomes are safe.
I'd just like to share that so much of what you're saying really is echoed in the regional plan, the federally adopted regional plan, Southern Nevada Strong, which is part of the MPO and part of the RTC. And so many of these principles have actually been identified, and local governments are actually adopting these principles in their own master plans, which I think is critical. I've long said that, you know, we really need to change our culture because we're very car-centric here, and that if we really want to create a culture of being bus-centric and encouraging young people and other folks to get out of their cars, we do have to look at how we do design our communities as well. You know, I think some of the things that we can do, not only with the design side, are things like what we're doing with Boulder Highway, reimagining Boulder Highway to create an environment where we separate the bike traffic from the car traffic and actually take a dangerous road and reduce and put it on a road diet, basically. I think that's critical. But one of the things that I heard MJ say yesterday when we were at the Nevada State College and their installation program is that actually we are for 2 weeks going to provide free transit for kids at Nevada State College and the College of Southern Nevada to try to encourage that culture of transit, to get out of your cars and figure out how to use this system. But the system has to be efficient. If I'm going to spend an hour and a half on a bus, I'm probably not going to use it. I'm probably going to get back into my car and figure that out. But that being said, I have to say I admire the work that RTC has done in the Southwest, in Justin's area, and also in West Henderson, where we've actually looked at the on-demand transit, and that may be something that's part of the future culture of how we move people and how we can get people to places that they need to go, that we do need to look at things differently in the future and use technology and create efficiencies, but also in our land use plans, we certainly could look at things that we're doing to make sure that we're more responsive to building communities that get people out of their cars and get them into transit and make it safe for bicycles, because it isn't always safe for bicycles.
It is over a mile from my house to the closest grocery store. There is not a gym between my office, between the office here and my house. Like, there are big gaps in destinations for people. And when I lived in DC, I would walk to the grocery store because like there was no other way to get to. I mean, you could drive, but then you couldn't park, right? And I walked to. If you've ever carried a gallon of milk for a mile, it gets really heavy. So it just, you know, things that I really think it's key to cracking this. And Justin, to your point, this is not going to happen tomorrow. But key to cracking this is figuring out ways we can incentivize infill, incentivize redevelopment, and we're seeing it. If you drive Charleston, if you drive Sahara, some of those places, I think it's a senior housing that's going in near Jones, between Jones and Decatur, and I'm wondering where those seniors are going to get their groceries. You know, redevelopment is happening, and so how do we make sure to further encourage it and also get the other destinations along the way?
Well, Mayor, I know you're a humble person, but the city of Henderson should be commended for everything it's done to make downtown Henderson a walkable community. You've added affordable housing. You have a great arena. You have a place where people want to be. The time of Hendertucky, well, that was 25, 30 years ago. Yeah. No one's saying Hendertucky anymore. Yeah. The city of Henderson should be commended. And I think it's, you know, ideas that, quite frankly, were put together from Southern Nevada Strong. We're trying to follow suit. You know, in North Las Vegas, we're trying to go ahead and emulate success there too. We now have some planned mixed income housing coming in, some affordable mid-rise housing. We've never had that in downtown North Las Vegas, and very soon here we're going to have a special meeting to consider someone who's coming in who will actually transform and make it also into a place that people want to be. We're very fortunate in downtown Las Vegas. We have several places to go buy food that are walking, but we need more stuff. And part of it's going to be also, like you said, reducing, you know, putting Lake Mead Boulevard on a diet, as you said, to reduce speed, which will help. But again, make it into a walkable community. And I'm sure the commissioner can also attest to this. Right now, because there's such a dearth in housing, you know, the developers that come to us, I understand they're trying to make a buck, and they're falling over themselves to make any sort of housing available. But they put housing, and when you ask me, hey, man, we need some commercial, they'll tell us, well, sorry, you know, the market can't sustain it, right? And it's not true. And we have to reimagine, what accessibility to food means. There's food deserts, not just in North Las Vegas, not just in county, but in Vegas, and I'm sure it's happening in Henderson as well. We haven't struck that balance yet, and somehow you're right, we have to incentivize having a place to where people can walk to get some groceries, or they can at least maneuver their scooter to get to groceries. Granted, we're not going to build the mega strip malls anymore. Those are probably something in the past, but I think we have to be flexible with our zoning to allow for neighborhood marts, neighborhood offices for medical, to get your teeth looked at. There is a balance in there, and for all of my developer friends who are out there, it's not that we're against you, but we're trying to build a community. They have their goals. Our goals are in trying to build a community.
Thank you. Commissioners, anyone else? MJ?
Chairwoman, if I may, with your support and direction, we have been working closely with the community for the last 3 years to identify what they would like to see in terms of enhanced mobility here in Southern Nevada. If not for the pandemic and this interruption, we would have been well on our way in asking the community in a very official manner how they want to invest in enhanced mobility that includes safety measures. So again, I want to thank you and your leadership, the entire commission, for your support in that effort. We are knee deep in it right now, and we'll be coming back with some recommendations. But here in Southern Nevada, we are certainly working diligently to identify a funding mechanism that will allow us to enhance mobility here in Southern Nevada. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, and thank you, Director Swallow. Next item.
The next item is to approve your consent agenda, which consists of items 5 through 24 and can be taken in one motion.
Anyone want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. MJ?
Thank you, Chairman. Agenda item 25 is to receive information from our legal counsel, but we do not have any legal matters to discuss, so we can move on to your last agenda item, which is to conduct your final citizens participation period.
Thank you. And this is the second time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to the board, now is your opportunity. Please come forward to the microphone to provide your comment and state your name for the record. And I do have a card here. Carol White?
Correct.
Thank you, Carol.
Hi. Good morning, Chairman March, Vice Chair Jones, Mayor Goodman, Councilman Barron, Director Swallow, Commissioner Sigerbloom, Councilman Galt, and Mayor Pro Tem Bridges. I am Carol White, and I represent my husband, Kenneth White. I would ask that you immediately consider updating the jurisdictional service for the paratransit system to include this extremely small change so that my husband can be transported by the RTC paratransit system for his final time before his death. Kenny has been an RTC paratransit rider since approximately January 2015. He is 87 years old, a 17-year Marine Corps veteran, a loyal civil servant to the city of San Diego for over 40 years, almost totally blind, has extensive cardiac and respiratory issues. He is mentally challenged with dementia and is terminally ill with end-stage kidney failure. Kenny only rode the paratransit bus to and from his dialysis 3 times a week. He never used a bus to go to casino, gaming businesses, or even a grocery store, as many of the clients do. He simply needs rides to his life-saving dialysis treatments, since I still work part-time for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, as I have for the past 17 and a half years, and cannot transport him myself. In November 2021, his mental capacity decreased significantly, and I was forced to place him into an assisted living facility so he could be watched 24 hours a day. He has only Medicare, which doesn't cover this type of care, so I'm forced to pay cash every month. I found that Clark County has several facilities, but the cost was prohibitive. The facility that would have been closest to our home was $9,200 cash each month. I finally found a facility in the northwest part of the valley that would charge us only $3,000 a month. I placed him into this facility the 1st of December 2021. To try and assist the RTC, I had Kenny transferred to a dialysis center, which would be much closer to the facility. I thought this would be easier for the RTC. I never dreamed the RTC had jurisdictional limits. Clark County is Clark County, right? Not with the RTC. I called to have his service changed to this new location. The representative tells me that this facility is 2 blocks out of the RTC's jurisdiction. 2 blocks. When I told the representative that he definitely needed their services, she suggested that I have him walk 2 blocks to be in their jurisdiction and that they would pick him up from there. I reminded her he's 87, blind, uses oxygen in a walker. She simply said, well, you should have checked with us before you moved him. I was absolutely stunned by her comments. Yes, since then I have gone on the RTC website that says, quote, RTC recommends that paratransit customers call before you move.
Go ahead and finish.
Okay. To ensure that pick-up and drop-off locations are within the paratransit service area. I totally acknowledge that I didn't contact the RTC before having it placed, service or not. I couldn't afford $9,000 a month out of pocket to keep him in his current geographical region. I have used the paratransit service map from the RTC website. There was a small non-covered section below Ann Road and the 215. Kenny's facility is off the 215 at Lone Mountain, exactly 1 freeway exit from the existing service area. Google Maps says he's within 3 minutes of the service area. The RTC website contains a section entitled Reasonable Modification. Under Policy and Procedures, this section states, quote, the request for modification can be for any of the transportation services provided by the RTC, such as paratransit, fixed route, etc., unquote. This section also includes a section on denials of requests for modification, which states, quote, may be denied only on one or more of the following grounds. Granting requests would fundamentally alter the nature of the RTC's transportation service, programs, or activities. No. Granting the request would create a direct threat to the health or safety of others. No. And without the requested modification, the individual with a disability is able to fully use RTC services, programs, or activities for their intended purposes. No.
Thank you. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have staff meet with you and sit down and talk through and see if we can find a solution to this. So if you want to wrap up your comments.
Okay. I've spoken with multiple RTC representatives. This is important because they should know how their customer service people are responding to the general public.
Thank you.
I asked the RTC representatives multiple times on how to file a grievance or complaint to have the boundaries reviewed. Each time I've been told, this is how it is. They don't change their boundaries. Kenny's most recent RTC certification was completed in February 2021. He was determined to be eligible due to his advanced medical issues. He was certified until March of 2024, yet that 1 freeway exit is keeping him from out of the transportation system. The owner of the facility has been transporting him to and from dialysis on an interim solution. In all the years he has been on service with the RTC, he has always paid his $3 per visit each way 3 times a week. For these 7 years, he has paid over $6,552 to the RTC. We have never gotten a free ride, and we're fully willing to continue to pay for this. I will go ahead and stay as you've suggested, ma'am, and we'll answer any questions.
Francis, will you meet with her? Okay.
I really hope that something can be done because there are other people in the same facility that, fortunately for them, since I'm working full-time for Metro and he's retired, we make too much money to get on welfare. The other residents are on welfare, and they get their little coupons and ride the RTC bus free.
Yeah.
And they come and pick them up because they're free.
We'll make sure someone gets with you as soon
Thank
as the meeting concludes. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Can we take the microphone up to the back row? Thank you.
Good morning, Raymond Fletcher for the record. My comments are directed towards Director Swallow. I appreciate you getting out and riding the bus, and your experience you shared are spot on. I felt as if you were speaking to me or going through the experiences that I go through. Far too many people in our community are either on their phones or not paying attention while they're driving. Far too many people fly around corners as you're stopped at a stoplight or a walkway, and people get hit and they get injured. A lot of places are not close by a grocery store or where we need to get, and I appreciate you highlighting those. You know, it's very important as we plan our communities and we extend transportation that every individual has the opportunity to access life, whether it's their gyms, their place of worship, whether they want to go out and get a meal, or whether they just want to spend time with friends. And CEO Maynard, you're absolutely correct in acknowledging our drivers during this pandemic, and I appreciate you highlighting it. So often when I'm on the bus, just seeing some of the negativity, the hostility that they go through, not everyone is aware of someone's medical issue. When the operators bring up wear your masks, you know, some people say, hey, I have a medical issue. Some people on the bus want to make a big deal about an individual not wearing their mask, but again, they don't know their medical issues. You know, oftentimes, you know, the buses are running late because of the shortage in staffing. You got people that don't have their fare ready, and they see the bus while they're sitting there at the bus stop. So I appreciate you acknowledging the people that are working so very hard in our community. It's what you guys do that helps support our community. And I know that it's been a while since I spoke before you, you know, but I wish you luck and success in this new year. I hope that any opportunity, as we have in the past, been able to work together, continue to work together, continue to build up and support our community, continue to look at all the positives that are out there. There's been so much negativity this past year and a half. You know, we need just that one little thing to turn it around. You know, so your acknowledgement of the experiences people go through, I really appreciate that. And again, your acknowledgement of the operators. Thank you so very much, Chairwoman March, Vice Chair Jones. Thank you for what you guys do in our community. Thank you for the extension. It gives people an opportunity to better access life.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? So we have, because of COVID, we have temporarily accepted public comment via email. Is there anyone wishing to speak via email?
Yes, Mayor Dubois again for the record. We have 3 public comments to be read aloud today.
Thank you.
First is from Christopher James Labardo, Jr. As Clark County continues to grow, it appears that fixed transit isn't growing enough. Expanding service should be at the forefront of RTC's mind. People only use public transit if it's fast, affordable, and accessible. The over $60 million in FTA COVID dollars the RTC received to make up for budgeting shortfalls won't fix the problem long term. It's time to make more sensible changes to the system, such as extending Route 111 to St. Rose Parkway M Resort and discontinue serving Green Valley Parkway and Green Valley Resort. Service would remain on Pecos Road and continue on to St. Rose Parkway, terminating at the M Resort. Add a new Blue Diamond Road Windmill Lane Route 222 with service terminating at Green Valley Resort in Henderson. Add a new Airport Express route providing direct service from the downtown and resort corridor to Harry Reid International without having to transfer to another bus. Many travelers feel lost, confused, and/or not safe by having to transfer to another route. Direct service would greatly benefit the RTC and improve ridership. Add a new Russell Road Route 211, proving service to Harry Reid International and SSTT while also interlining with Route 201 via Broadbent on the east and Wallapai Way on the west, as well as discontinuing the Jimmy Durante Loop on Route 201 Tropicana. Extend Route 104 Valley View to Sunset Road, then proceed to SSTT, discontinuing service on Russell Road, replaced by new Russell Road 211 service. Extend both routes 201 Tropicana and 202 Flamingo to Wallaby Way. Extend routes 101 and 103 to Cactus Avenue, connecting with Route 221. Reconfigure routes 212 and 217 in the southwest. Have both routes continue straight on Warm Springs Road and Sunset Road after departing the SSTT, and utilize South Fort Apache Road to interline with one another. Reconfigure the Centennial Express as the intertown connector. Option 1, extend service from Harry Reid International to downtown Henderson by using the airport connector to the I-215, then exit at Lake Mead Parkway and have service terminate at Water Street. Option 2, extend service from Harry Reid International to Boulder City using the airport connector to I-215 to I-11 with Route 221 terminating at Boulder Highway and Horizon Drive. Consider renumbering Route 122 and replace with extending Route 109 to South Maryland Parkway. Why inconvenience passengers by having two different routes for one roadway? Introduce new limited service on select legacy routes and discontinue blue gold marketing and verbiage. Instead of 206 Charleston Gold or Blue, consider 206 Charleston Limited. Utilizing colors to differentiate service is confusing to many transit users. Referencing the word limited implies a limited stop service without the guesswork. Consider limited service for the following legacy routes: 103, 110, 115, 201, 202, 203, and including the 206. With change comes expense. These changes over time can substantially help the RTC's year after year decreasing ridership increase, potentially offsetting initial investments made today. It's time to stop looking ahead to the future. It's already here. The next comment is from Ms. Stephanie Versnick. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Versnick. I have been testifying to the Commission for almost 4 years, asking to expand the service area. In August of 2021, the service area was expanded to my home, and I was finally in the service area. Now my son is picked up from Nellis Air Force Base Commissary and brought home. This has greatly improved his independence, and he is much happier. I cannot begin to tell you what a difference this has made in his life. It makes me happy to see him so happy. I have previously stated transportation is a critical piece for people to live an independent life. For people with disabilities, public transportation is often the only piece that can connect them to employment, education, healthcare, their social world, and relationships. Without transportation, people with disabilities live their lives in isolation. We still have a lot of work to do. Many people still don't have access to transportation. I understand due to COVID there is a driver shortage. However, we must not forget the needs of this community. It is my hope that this commitment is working on a plan to expand the service area to give more people access to transportation. Hopefully, once this surge has peaked and the numbers begin to decrease, the conversation and planning can begin to develop and implement a plan to give more people access to transportation. Although COVID is impacting everyone's life, there are still many new housing developments that are being built, and that means more people don't have access to transportation. Our city continues to grow. More people continue to move to Clark County that won't have transportation. This needs to be a priority of this committee. In closing, it is important to continue reading public comment out loud before going into the record. I hope this will continue. Things are so different today than they were 2 years ago. Since the beginning of the pandemic, our world is a different place. We shop, work, and even visit with family and friends, primarily in the virtual world. The pandemic continues to be a threat to all of us. Our positivity rate is the highest it's ever been. The virtual world is here to stay. We can't go back to the way we used to do business. Many people, myself included, are not comfortable attending public meetings. This is a new, different way of life that we are living in today. The public's voice opinion deserves to be heard. It's just common courtesy. It only takes approximately 2 minutes to read 500 words or less. Today, we can all show each other some common courtesy. Remember, we are all in this together. And the final one's from Ms. Robin Kincaid. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Robin Kincaid, and I've been testifying at the RTC meetings for the past 3 years. My daughter Kayla is a frequent paratransit user. Once again, the Las Vegas community is growing, and we need RTC to accommodate the growth within the community. I am asking the RTC develop a process to look at this growth and meet the needs in the areas in the over age 55 communities and communities that have existed for decades and still do not have service. Please make this a priority to identify a process to expand the service area and publish the steps to the community that are necessary to accomplish this expansion. My daughter is still waiting for paratransit to provide transportation to our place of worship in the Summerlin area. I would also like to see the RTC staff provide the commission information on the number of complaints received and the RTC response to the complaint. Each RTC meeting should have a review of this complaint matrix, the response remedy back to the writer, and the time needed to respond to the complaint. This data can be useful to improve services for paratransit riders. Thank you for your assistance and working towards solutions to make paratransit a system that works for persons with disabilities. I wish all of you good health and staying safe during the significant increase in COVID-19 cases. And that concludes your public comments.
Thank you. And I understand there may be another public comment in the audience. Yes. We need some volume over there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. My name is Shelley Jones, and I lost track of how many times I've been here, but I do enjoy coming to these meetings because it gives me an outlook on what's really happening in the real world. I have two comments. One is on paratransit, the other is on Tango. Tango is a great program. It's one of the best things you guys have ever done. The problem I do have is I was informed that the micro transit system goes outside of where you guys' boundary is at, and they pick up people that have bicycles. Well, if they can see, they don't need the Tango program. They need to use their legs. And I don't see no reason why Miss White's husband cannot get on Tango to take him to and from dialysis. That's very important. That's life. She needs to help her husband. Like my husband I help, he has cancer. So I do whatever I have to help him. And I understand that. As far as the paratransit drivers, they're great. There's only a few that have had problems, and I don't feel that they should bring them to work. I think that they need to be retrained and experience the customer service end of it, because they seem to be very miserable, and they show racism towards a lot of people I've seen. And my girlfriend in one, who is black, and she experiences a lot of discomfort with this RTC people with scheduling. Some of the people of scheduling, I can only name, well, I'm not going to name any names, but a handful of them know their job. The others need to be retrained. I have had experience where drivers have come to my house, and I live within the guidelines of your choosing, and the drivers don't get out of the bus, and I'm totally blind. So I need the door-to-door service. I need assistance. I don't require a whole lot of assistance, but a lot of drivers that I have experienced are not so customer friendly. And I don't feel that they should be working at a customer service job if they're not going to be customer worthy. I've had experience where I scheduled, this has happened to me a couple times now, where I have scheduled a ride and then come to find out when I call in to verify my rides that there are no rides set. That's horrible.
Thank you. I will have staff get with you at the conclusion of the meeting to maybe get some more specifics from you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you're saying.
I will have staff get with you at the conclusion of the meeting to get some more specifics from you to address your concerns.
Okay, I'll
Thank
leave my
you.
number with somebody because I have a bus coming for me and I can't miss it.
Okay, so maybe somebody can make
Thank
contact.
you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in the public comment period? Seeing no one, this meeting is adjourned.